This is Fergus the bull. He sits outside Bunbury and he's full of bull.
Okay, is Fat Stormtrooper from Dupes Gaming. I'm just having a look at some of the vintage items that are high tier that are available. And as a collector of various things, I'm very interested in them and their prices. This is the Team Fortress 2 prices for a typical Maxus 7 head. The price is at 18.6 keys. And, typically on the community market they are about $30 something, and that's maybe $40, and that fits with this price. The vintage ones are priced at a massive $1,430 or 800 keys. Now, I guess the question is how common it is that these things are duped. The other one that's the so-called the swarm parasite, that is priced, if you just in the unique quality, it's quite cheap, but it's about 150 keys, which is about the equivalent to $300 in the vintage quality. The other thing that's quite uncommon is, of course, the earbuds. Now, the earbuds are valued at 400 keys, or about $800. So, with that in mind, I might have a look at a few other things. The other one, of course, is the Bill's hat. The Bill's hat. And in the vintage quality, that should be about $20 or 10 keys. So I guess overall, if I just look at overall the vintage, what items are vintage? I don't know what we're doing. Vintage, craftable. Why are they just not coming out with all of them? Anyway, so basically, we've seen some of the higher tier items. Now I'm just going to have a look onto community market and see what the difference is. Okay, let's have a look at the community market. Now in the community market, they've got this Maxus 7 head for $694, which is well below what it's worth. So I guess the question is, why is it worth that? So we'll have a look at that. Now the earbuds, I mean, again, the earbuds are typically around 300, so there's no surprise there, but this Maxus 7 head's not bad. Now the vintage swarm parasite is generally valued about 150, so this is not really particularly cheap. I mean, I'm interested potentially in that Maxus 7 head, but it makes me wonder why that vintage Maxus 7 head is so cheap. I'm just going to look into it a little bit. Okay, so we're looking at this backpack tier forum, and it talks about the vintage Maxus 7 head. This Purple Potato has hosted this, and basically one guy had a Maxus 7 head price at 700, and someone's seeing it for 200 to 250 keys. The funny thing is that they're selling the same hat. Was it duped? It was the same ID. You couldn't buy both of them for 550 pure. Delete one, there would only be one, and it wouldn't be duped anymore. So I guess the question is, the history would still show it's duped. Dupe means duplication in the past. The history would still show it's duped. Pretty sure it's duped once. So even if you wipe out the other one, it still will show up as being dupe. So should someone buy all the dupe vintages and delete them? Well, I don't know about that. So the vintage Maxus in question, level 48 and 81, have been duped over 100 times. There are also accounts that have 10 vintage Maxus of these infantries. I will never work with these vintages. So level 48 and 81. So let's go back to the community market and see whether this is the truth. So this is somebody who is a very knowledgeable and is aware that say 48 and 81. So this is the hat in question, and you can obviously see here that it is in fact level 48. So in other words, almost certainly this hat has been duped. So this is really interesting. I'm going to go back now to Backpack and see whether or not you know, how many of these things are actually around the Maxis Vintage 7 head and what levels are in. So that will provide some indication as to how many of these there are and how many have had in fact been duped. Okay, I'm just looking at the Maxis 7 head stats from Backpack. So basically, it says here 135 have sold recently. Okay, in the last 12 hours, for an average price, 12 have sold. So there seem to be around the $300 mark. But it's interesting how many of these exist in the community. I always thought that these were quite rare in terms of their existence. So there's not that many of them around. Out of all those, 7 instances of the items are thought to exist. Well, I thought they were much more common than that because they're duped. Maybe that's 7 actual items, but that doesn't take into account the ones that are duped. So is that seven items? I guess they're the different appearances, and these are the level distribution. Of course, the 48, as we've known, appearance is 1, but there's lots of those around. So, I got a 101. 58, this one here is 78 and 81. So, I mean, obviously 35, 41. So, I guess here, this is another one that's for sale. Okay, sell orders. If you want to buy, so there's suggestions. Some people saying, they should be worth 800 keys. Yes, well, that's a clean Maxis 7 head for 800 keys. Clean, okay. This thing is overpriced. Not many will pay. This is saying that they should go down, okay. Wanting it to go down, okay, and people are voting saying this thing's overpriced, it's not worth it. You've got other people saying it's the right price. So from my point of view, I think it is probably overpriced, but I mean there are a few of them around, and the problem is they're being duped. Let's have a look at this one here in particular. This is a level 48, and he's trying to sell it for 600 keys. This is a high-tier trader, and basically, if you buy pure keys, I'll do a discount. But guess what? This is a level 48. Wow, there's one on the community market for that. This is 600 keys they're selling it for. When you go to the community market, you get it for like $600. So again, I don't think so. Again, this is a level 48 hat, and there's supposed to be, according to that graph, 1 in existence. Oh my God, there's 2. There's 2. So the other thing that sort of concerns me is they must know, being one of the most experienced traders, that this is actually probably a duped hat. Okay, I don't know what this one here. This is Steve Parker, level 100. No, that's just a suggestion. But this is a level 48 hat. Now that is almost certainly duped. Nothing is said about whether it's original, but it's been put on the market for, I think, too much, given the fact it's duped. So you've just got to be a bit careful. If you want to get a duped hat in the community market, they do come up for about $300. So, and in particular, we've already seen which levels are the ones to look out for. 48 seem to be the most common ones that are duped. So I hope that helps you when you're looking at vintage Maxis 7 heads. It's sort of a hat that Yeah, I think it's compared to getting a good unusual a set of unusuals for the same price. It's something that's really more for the collector. And it's really unfortunate that its value has been eroded by the dishonest section of the community that have duped them. Peace.